Hey, Adventure Alan here, and we're here today to talk about clothing for hiking in cold weather. It's always a challenge for people, and we have a great system that we think works in a broad range of conditions and temperatures that Allison and I have used all over the world. Everybody thinks the layering system is about changing layers, like the conditions change a little bit and oh, I pull out this one cool piece of clothing and oh, something else happens, I take it off. Or that's actually not the best way to use it. The best way for the layering system is actually not to change layers. It's to get a set of clothing that's going to work in a very broad range of conditions. And I'll go ahead as we work through this video here and tell you why that's so. Now I'm going to go through sort of the key points that I'm going to cover in this video. And before I do that, I should say that even though it looks warm and sunny out here, it really isn't. It's like actually in the mid-30s, and I'm doing okay with what I'm wearing. But anyway, let's go back to the key points. The first key point is that this system it's simple, it's not complicated to use, it's far easier to use than the clothing systems, the layering systems advocated by major retailers and self-proclaimed experts. That's going to save you money, and it also just means you have less clothing and fewer things to keep track of. The second point that I want to cover is that constant moderate movement is your friend. It's at least as important as your clothing, and you don't have to go blind hiking, but if this moderate movement generates heat, it keeps you warm. The third point that I'm going to make is that contrary to what you've heard, changing layers less frequently and only when necessary is the goal here. The problem with frequently changing layers is that it could actually make you colder. And I'll go into that in more detail in the video. And the fourth point is that sweating out and getting your clothing wet is a big problem, and we really want to avoid that. Wet clothing equals a cold, wet, miserable hiker. It's really hard to dry out during the day, so you may be a wet, cold, miserable hiker for the rest of the day. And the fifth point I want to make is that you really want to minimize when you stop and how long you stop. Going back to movement as your friend and generates warm. When you stop, you're getting colder. The longer you stop, the colder you get. And again, when it's cold, it can be very hard to get warm again. And then finally, a few disclaimers here. This is a clothing system for cold weather or winter-like conditions. That doesn't mean it's a clothing system for full-on winter that you might experience in the high mountains in the US, or even at near sea level or lower elevations in some place like Minnesota. That requires a specialized winter clothing list, which this list is not. The other thing I should mention is that hypothermia is a serious issue. By all means, if you are getting cold, stop and get some warm clothes on. This system that we talk about isn't contradicting that, but I just want to underscore that point that, yeah, if you're getting cold, put on that warm clothing and do it immediately. Let's talk about what I'm wearing. What I'm wearing right here, right now, would probably get me through the mid-20s up to maybe 50, 55 degrees without ever having to change a layer. And sort of, how does that work? One of the key things to how that works is movement is your friend. When Allison and I are using a clothing system like this, we're moving constantly. Maybe not that hard, maybe just hiking at 1 or 1.5, 2 miles an hour. We're still moving, and that warmth that movement generates is your friend. Let's start looking through what I have to wear. First thing, on my feet here, I'm just wearing a normal pair of trail shoes, nothing particularly warm, same shoes we wear all year. You'll notice I don't have a base layer on, so we just don't find that we need it. And one of the problems with a base layer or anything underneath your pants is exceptionally hard to change in the field. So if you're running too hot, then it's almost impossible to get it off without a long, laborious thing. You take your shoes off, you take your pants off, you take your long johns off, you put it on, you put it back in your pack, and by then you've stopped moving for so long, you're cold. We just find that wherever we hike, we really actually don't need it. The pants I'm wearing are just a generic pair of nylon hiking pants. There's nothing particularly special about them. We actually like the thinner fabric, not the super, super heavy fabric. And again, because you're walking, your legs are generating a lot of heat. So we're just really trying to protect our legs from sun and block wind. On the top here, I've got a Patagonia R1 hoodie. It's got this nice built-in hood. This is my base layer and warm layer at the same time. I have this 100-weight fleece, which is another warm layer. The two of these actually block wind pretty well. It's got to be blowing pretty hard before I need to put something over them to block the wind. The advantage of these is that while they're keeping me warm, they're also not retaining my sweat. Remember I told you about sweating out? You won't sweat out in this clothing. I've got a nice light pair of gloves here to keep my hands warm. I also have a hat here in my pocket, which is a kicker. If it gets really cold, I can put this hat on, add some more warmth to my head. I don't need it. I can take it, put it back in my pocket. I also, since my hands tend to run fairly cold, I also have these wind shells. And if it's windy and cold, then I can go ahead and put these on over these gloves. And this is awesomely warm. Not only do they block wind, but they actually add a lot of warmth to my hand layer system. And you notice right now, I'm sort of adjusting the warmth of my clothing and wind resistance of it without ever having to go into my pack or stop moving. Let's talk about what you would do. Let's say I'm going uphill, it's getting warmer in the day, and I'm going uphill. As I get hot, these gloves come off, go in my pocket there, and I can pop this, unzip this a little bit, and pop this hood off. And I can keep unzipping this stuff and start venting here. And then if I'm really getting hot, I can start to pull this stuff back and actually expose my forearms. And you can see that I'm already dispelling a lot of heat. And finally, you know, if it's really warm, I might even just cut my pace half an hour up the hill to not sweat my clothing out. And obviously, as you crest the hill or it gets colder, you can reverse this procedure. Sleeves go back down. I could even, it's got some nice thumb loops I can do on those. Put this back down, pull out my gloves out of my pocket, put these back on. So I just keep putting stuff on and off to dispel heat. But what's not happening again is that my clothing is getting wet. And then you can just go ahead and start zipping stuff back up here. And you'll probably ask, well, what's going on with my feet? Well, what's going on with my feet is what's keeping my feet and actually my lower legs going, since they're the main motivating things that are keeping me hiking, is the movement of my feet and legs. They're working all the time and those muscles are generating heat. As long as you're moving, and you've noticed that I made all my clothing adjustments without stopping, your legs and feet are going to stay reasonably warm. So let's talk about one of our key points, which is stopping. At some point you're going to need to stop, but the suggestion is to keep that stop short, maybe 5 minutes or less. Make it only for something essential you need to get done, like have a snack or get something out of your pack, and then get up rolling again. Hopefully you can do this. If you plan a little bit, you can do it in a sheltered, more warmer place. But once all those things are done, as soon as you get to your stop, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your pack off, and you're going to just, as fast as you can, move into the top pocket of your pack, and you're going to pull out this nice, super warm, puffy down jacket here, and you're going to line it up right and get your arms and the sleeves and just pull this thing on. And now you're good. Now you can relax a little bit, and you're just going to zip this up and maybe put the hood up. You know, maybe it's a bit windy or something. I'm going to leave this open because I've got a little mic on in here, but normally I would zip this up. And now I'm good. Now I can do whatever I need to do in camp, and I'm generating all that body, I'm keeping all that body heat I generated warm. But again, I just, you know, like 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes tops, get a snack, drink some, whatever I need to do. And then, obviously, you want to do the same thing. You want to get everything done, so the last thing you do is basically stand up and tear off this down jacket, throw it in the pack, and get back on the trail and keep moving again to generate that warmth. And you might actually, in the first 5 minutes or so, want to pick up your pace a bit, drive that body heat up, and then as soon as you sort of feel that nice warm glow in your body again, you can settle down to that nice, comfortable sort of tempo pace that's generating enough heat. Let's go ahead and I'll just talk about a couple other pieces of gear that you might be interested in. First of all, I'm just using this for an example, but this is the Patagonia R1 hoodie that I'm wearing. And this is the base layer I would use for that scenario where the temperatures are running into the like mid-20s and maybe a little lower as the low temperature for the day. I love the built-in hood on this, and it's a little warmer than the other base layers. I've used this in a cold snap in the High Sierra in the fall when the average temperature was below freezing and went down to 12 at night, and I think the average temperature for the day was like 26, and this was my base layer. It's awesome for conditions like that. The other one that I use probably more often, and actually probably for today this would have been a more appropriate one, I just wanted to wear the R1 hoodie for an example, is just a simple merino wool base layer. Not quite as heavy, a little lighter. It's got this nice half zipper here. And this would be the one I'd say probably, if it's not going to go too much below freezing, this would be the base layer you want. You saw I had a little like red watch cap on, but actually probably if you don't have a hood on your jacket like this hoodie, a nice fleece balaclava like this is probably a more flexible piece of headwear. You can cover up your neck with it, or you can sort of roll it up and just wear it as a hat, or you can bring it down and wear it as the hood. Again, you could take it off, stick it in a pocket somewhere. The other piece that we use, if it's really, really cold and windy, and we know it's going to be really, really cold and windy for a long time, like when we were out on the southern Patagonian ice shelf this January, these Patagonia Nano Air jackets, we really like them. And one of the nice things about these jackets, unlike other shells which tend to block too much wind, they essentially trap moisture because they don't breathe well enough. These breathe really well. They have this sort of perfect blend of blocking enough wind to keep you from freezing your ass off, but not retaining so much moisture that you get super sweaty. We also use these for a bike pack tripping in December, where we're on our bikes, we're generating a lot of wind speed, and it's like around freezing outside. Another great piece of gear. And then finally, these are a couple of things that I really like. These gloves here are awesome if you have to do something like shoot video or anything that requires manual dexterity. These gloves here are fantastic. They keep your hands reasonably warm and they give you finger dexterity. It's also a wind block fleece, so a nice piece of gear. So the last thing to talk about here is, we do not use a wind shirt in this scenario, and people are like, well, how can you not use a wind shirt? Well, what I was talking about, this Patagonia Nano Air here, The problem with wind shirts or any thick fabric is they're more like a rain jacket than you think. They actually block a lot of moisture from evaporating from your skin, which traps it inside your clothing, gets your clothing wet, and wet clothing in cold weather is the kiss of death. It just is guaranteed to make you cold. So we tend to avoid putting on that wind layer until at all possible. What we found is that by the time it's cold enough that we need to put a shell over this, that a basic rain jacket is fine. The difference between a basic rain jacket and a wind shirt in terms of the amount of moisture they trap is not a huge deal when it's really, really cold. That is, by the time it's cold enough we're putting this on, we're really not sweating that much. So, but by all means, if you're wedded to the wind shirt, it's not the end of the world. It's just another thing to take on and off. Another thing I forgot to mention about this gear is that there's actually not a lot of, I'm not wearing a lot of gear. It's actually less expensive than a lot of people's layering systems, which have tons of pieces of gear, pieces of clothing, many of them fairly expensive. I'm not really wearing anything pretty expensive here, except for maybe the Patagonia R1 hoodie, but the merino wool shirt you can get for a lot less money. So it can save you money as well as weight and being simpler and easier to use. Anyway, go ahead, like this video, subscribe to this channel, go and hit that notification bell. So the next time that we put out another informative video to help you become a happier hiker and have more fun in the backcountry, you'll be one of the first to see it. Until then, we're really excited to come back with you with a new video. So this is Adventure Alan signing out.